Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Welcome back, everyone, and we're here with Angie Payne of Jalene's Art, and Angie is a Canadian West Coast contemporary artist with about 35 years experience as a professional artist. She also teaches art, and before we jumped on air here and started recording, we talked a little bit about some of her students, and some of them are amazing, even at the ages of 7, and they look like they're more than just starting out doing their art. So Angie has a real passion for art, and she has an intuitiveness that actually spills through into everything that she does. So welcome to the show, Angie.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here, and great to be able to have the opportunity to talk more about the arts and how art is introduced into my life.
Yeah. So how did there is a profound story about how you actually got started as an artist, because it really wasn't an upfront process, was it?
No, it wasn't. And as a matter of fact, I don't want to be an artist, and I did attend university, and I had actually had a scholarship in math and worked in the corporate world. And I got a lot of influence from a lot of the people I worked with. And I went back to a school reunion, and I was asked if I was still painting. And so they triggered something in me, and I decided to go back to university and study the arts. And in the first semester of the university session, when the instructor said, most of the portfolios are C's and D's, there are a few A's and A pluses, and I just thought, well, I gave it my best shot. And when I got my portfolio, I was one of the A's, so it really took me by surprise. So I started going through my portfolio, and with the encouragement of a lot of wonderful instructors, I pursued more and more the arts, and doors just kept opening for me, and here I am. I'm still in the arts, and with a lot of my students, which I really admire, they are wannabe artists, and I'm really ready to share with them my academics experiences as well as my profession as an artist and painting in my studio.
Yeah. So first, let's talk a little bit about your art itself, because when I was looking through your website at Jalene's Art, I noticed a profound use of colors, and like you're trying to give somebody a feeling as they're viewing with your work.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, color and energy are my gurus, if I can say that. And my color palettes change with the beautiful dynamics of the surrounding landscape. And one of the things that I have found is that my sensitivity to color is important also to my students. I might encourage them with the perspectives and everything else, but it's up to them to choose the colors that they can be most sensitive to. And I've really found that I might be off on maybe a 16th of an inch on the color that they choose, but it is their color, and that's very important for all the students or even for adults to be able to have that sensitivity to color, not only in art but in the world around us. When we look at the landscapes and the trees and the sunsets, and my palettes change when I see all the beautiful different dynamics of the world around us and the land that we live on. The colors also keep me connected with the spirit of the land and the people and my students, and I just really love that part of it.
Yeah. It sounds like you have a true appreciation for the beauty that is our planet and universe.
Yes, I believe that very much, because the art to me is not just painting. It's I actually live through my art when I'm painting with the color of the landscape and our earth, and we have so much conversation around our green earth and preserving it, and my art actually helps me live through that, because I go into the forest and I get a real sense of appreciation of the world that we live in.
Yeah. So you say, like, you go into a forest or something. Is there, when you're getting ready to paint something, is there a preparation that you do for your mind and your spirit so that you can transfer what you see in your eyes through your hand onto the canvas?
Well, yes and no, because sometimes, all I have to do is look out at the sunrise or the sunset and the color, and I just feel so energized by it that I have a sense that I have to do something with it. And maybe I don't, but that's a sense that I have within myself. Or even if I go into the park and the forest, I love Redwood Park, there's such an energy that is in the trees and everything else that I'm just energized by it, and I have to do something with it. If I didn't, I would probably go out of my mind. So I really have to do something with all this beautiful energy that I'm surrounded with.
Yeah. It's great to hear people when they talk about what's around us in nature and things like that it's good to hear people use the words beautiful and energy and all those sort of things that sometimes I think in our modern life we forget about them.
And I could agree with you there, because for me, I can't call it an escape, but when I remove myself from all the everything that's going on around us, there's so much happening in our world today with protests and political scenes and everything else. I just find for myself, if I enter into this other sphere of our beautiful natural surroundings, that I get a sense of appreciation and calmness that puts me. I would like that to be transferred to the people, anybody that's looking at my work, and get that same sense of appreciation.
Well, I was actually looking at the first thing I found of yours was actually one of your promo pieces. Shall we say it was a mug?
Oh,
it was
okay.
The colors on the mug. It was like, oh, wow. I was kind of imagining being blown away by a mug, but it was just the way the colors were and everything. It had like purples and greens, and I could see the images of flowers and just happy and serene is what it was for me.
Well, thank you for that, because a lot of those images have come from some of my paintings, but in painting, and I work with that with my students, and for them to also have that sensitivity to color. And there's so much to the academics of the color sensitivity, but I really would like to see them build their own color sensitivity from within. And because all of us have that, and all you have to do sometimes is just look at on the street and what colors that people are wearing. And I also find different cultures have a real sensitivity to different colors as well, and so I work with that as well, in intuitively hearing what is important to them.
Yeah. So, because you teach, so how do you get your students to open up to that sensitivity?
Oh, well, all my students, even though they've done a lot with color. I have all my students start out with a color wheel because it's important for me to see how they mix their colors, how their brush stroke, their hand stroke, how they work with the color. And I find that even when they're working with the different colors on the color wheel, which are very much like the rainbow, they have a real sensitivity, and they tell me, oh, that's just a little bit too blue, that's just a little bit too much of that color. So they develop that color sensitivity. And I really am open to hearing how they're feeling about the color. And in time, they develop a greater and greater sensitivity to different colors, that they want to go out and buy their own paints and not only stick to the basics. See, because I teach with the primary colors, the red, yellow, and blue, and use very little white and black. And so after they really develop a greater sense of color, they want to go out and buy their own tubes of paint, and it's really wonderful to see how they have grown in that area alone.
Yeah. So, some of the things that you showed me before we started this, especially for a 7-year-old, how is it that did you get them to progress in such great detail about what it is that they see and then transfer it onto a page or a canvas?
I work with I can see that they are ready to move on, so I always take them to maybe a larger canvas. I know when they're ready, because if they started out with a larger canvas, and that's a 16, now even 11 by 14 would be a large canvas for a 7-year-old. So I start them out with a maybe 8 by 10 that might not be intimidating for them or overwhelming, and not as many objects. So slowly, as they develop a greater ability, then I take them to greater, larger canvases, and also greater images that I feel that they can handle. And sometimes I must say it's challenging for them, but they're always happy when they meet that challenge. Like one mother said to me, when you take art from Angie, you're not just taking art, you're learning confidence, you're learning courage, you're growing, all of that, and that's important to hear that, and they are. I can start out with the class, and they're hesitant, but I would say 99% of the time, by the time I leave that, they're bouncing off the wall, they're excited, they're happy, and that's really important.
It's exciting to hear someone teaching our youth that you're excited to watch them bounce off the walls, because as children they're supposed to be bouncing, and our school system may not want to push it that way, but it's good to hear that someone like you is doing that, allowing them to do that. Yeah.
Thank you. And also I've found that I only do an hour because their focus, their maximum focus is really good for an hour. And sometimes I will start out with the most challenging part of the painting, and when I see them starting to falter in their focus, I'll take them to a lighter, more energizing part that they will feel a greater freedom and not feel as much of a difficult situation. So ending them with an easy route so that they can have a really good fresh feeling by the end of the session. But an hour is about the maximum that they can really focus really, really well. So I pay attention to that.
Okay. We talked a nice chunk about the youthful students. Do you do adult students?
Oh yes, I've taught from ages 6 to 86, and I've also taught at a retirement place. Then they were the ages of 75 and up. Mm-hmm. And when I first started out with them, they were really hesitant, and at the beginning they would manage maybe about half an hour to 3/4 of an hour, and after about a month, a whole 2 hours wasn't enough for them, because they had really been able to get into the confidence of what they were doing. And at the retirement place as well, they looked forward to that every Tuesday session, because it gave them a purpose in life.
Yeah.
And at that age, when you're 85, and they were always amazed at what they could do. But it was a joke because I told them if they had paint on their nose, they were too close to the canvas. Because they're really concentrating. So it was really a lot of fun, but gosh, they really grew too in their dynamics. And so I've had all ages, and I've enjoyed the perspectives of all of them. And that's one of the reasons in my teaching, even if I have a group, working with the uniqueness of every individual, because that's who we are, that's what we are, that's how we think. And that was important, to be able to develop that uniqueness, so that they also, nobody could look over their shoulder to see what the other person was doing or copying or anything else. They were working on their own ability.
It sounds like you managed to draw out of people this ability to transform a canvas. It's like you just draw it out of them. Is that how
I pulled it out of them a lot,
Yeah.
And they enjoyed that, because they also noticed within themselves a greater part of themselves, that there was more to them just this little 6-year-old or an 86-year-old. They all found that there was a greater part to them, and that, I guess, myself in my career, I've also found the encouragement of all my instructors who saw much more in me than I saw in myself, and I found that greater part of myself. And
so you're also mirroring some of your instructors in what they saw in you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've had wonderful instructors who always saw more in me than I saw in myself. Mm-hmm. And as I say, in my first semester, when I got that portfolio back and I was an A, I never thought that much, but I go back to that portfolio sometime and look at all the comments that my instructors made, but I see a potential in a lot of my students, and I guess I've also found a greater potential in myself. You still have to be humble, but I found a greater potential in myself, which I'm really appreciating more and more at this stage of my career.
Well, are you using that potential to propel yourself into new and maybe uncomfortable places in adventures?
Oh yes, absolutely. Like I'm in working with the fusion of art and fashion. Mm-hmm. That has, at first, when I was asked to do that, I really questioned myself on that, but I decided to go ahead with it. And when I was doing it on my own here locally, but when the company in California picked me up, it was really wonderful, and I really questioned. For about a year, I did not go ahead with them, and then I decided to take the plunge. And when I started out with them, they were only doing scarves, but now they're into the classic mugs, they're into the dinnerware, they're into. So I'm really challenging myself that way, and I have a lot of work to do to be able to keep up with them.
Yeah. And so that's how I found you, was the mug.
Yes, the mug. Well, everybody likes a cup of coffee, and I guess what was really helpful to me, because the mothers of one of my students got me a coffee cup last Christmas with a Monet on it, painting on it. And so I had mentioned to her that I was going to be going that route, and she says, "Oh my gosh, I'll buy. I'm looking for something unique and anything like that." And I said, umbrellas, and I said, well, I only have solid colors for the umbrellas. And she says, well, I want a unique umbrella, So I'm getting feedback from a lot of different people, and so I have quite a bit of work to do that. When you ask about challenges, deciding on what I want to put on, even if it's the classic mug, because there are some cultures that like certain colors, and so I have to sort of intuitively look through that and decide what to do. And so some of my other challenges was when I was picked up by a gallery in Tokyo, I really questioned myself there, because I was blown away by this, and really felt honored. And then when they had, one of the things that they had in Tokyo was what's called a digital art screen.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I can mail my images, and what they'll do is they'll put it on a 30 by 40 screen and rotate it during an art show. So that was a step in the direction. So I did that. And then when I got the catalog with my artwork in that, it was really wonderful. I kept that. And but what happened out of that, I didn't have to go to Tokyo, but I could do the digital art screen.
Right.
And so after that, it was interesting because the connections internationally are really amazing. And a gallery in New York picked me up from the Tokyo gallery. And so I did that last Christmas. And but they were also a Japanese gallery. So there's such a big connection internationally, as we can have all our connections locally. The same thing happens on an international scene.
Yeah.
So I find that very challenging.
Yeah, that would be challenging. So did you get to go to New York this time instead of...
I did. And it was really wonderful. And so that's part of my dreams, is to be able to go to, like, Tokyo has 4 different branches in Oxford, England, and Spain. And I have a dream to be able to travel with my art to these different locations in Europe. Okay.
Yeah.
And but also, it's amazing the different galleries that are picking me up, even that from Tokyo, because I just noticed today I've got one from Shanghai and different locations. So I really have to sort of sit back and decide, narrow my international scope down a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I just really, so when you ask me about challenges, yes, they're all out there. So I never ever expected to go internationally like this. And when this happened with Tokyo, I was just really blown away. And I've got a few others now that are taking me over the moon. So I have to ground myself and say, oh, dear.
Well, the first time I met you, you told me this really grounding story about the trash bags.
Oh, okay. My garbage bag story.
Yeah, the garbage bag story. You want to tell everybody that?
Sure. It's my favorite. I've got 2 garbage bag stories, but my favorite one, a garbage bag story, is talk about confidence and building confidence. Was both my sons were in hockey, and my instructor really encouraged me to participate in this art show. And this was at the time when we had the BC Festival of the Arts. And so I said, no, I can't. I'm going to a hockey tournament. And he says, you must participate in this. So I decided to put a couple of paintings underneath all the hockey equipment in the car. And then when I got to the place where the jurisdiction was taking place, the juror says, I'm sorry, but I can't accept those. And I said, why? And he says, well, they have to be protected. And I said, it's all I've got. So then I thought, well, okay. I went to the drugstore and I got a cardboard box, and I ripped up the cardboard box and masking tape and the whole thing and wrapped them up. And then I thought, well, I put them in a garbage bag. So I went back to the juror and he says, I'm sorry, I still can't accept those. And I said, well, it's all I've got, and I'm here on a hockey tournament. He says, okay, I will accept them. And after a couple of weeks, I got really quite concerned that maybe they had thrown them out because they're in a garbage bag. And so I decided to phone them, and they said, oh my gosh, Mrs. Payne, we're so happy to hear from you. And I thought, uh-oh, what's going on? And he says, we usually accept only one painting, but we've decided to accept both your paintings. And as well, you have been nominated as a delegate for the province of BC for the festival, and with all expenses paid. And I'm just really blown away by this. Like, I'm sitting back and is this real? And not only that, but Prince Charles and Lady Diana were officiating, opening the ceremony. Like, I was just so blown away by this. And so this was my garbage bag story. You never know what's what's in it.
Yeah.
And I guess the other garbage bag story is that, one of my instructors told me his story about how he was cleaning out his studio. And there was a lady picking up his paintings out of the garbage. So anyways, my own personal experience was, it was about 7:30 in the morning, and my son looks out the window. I had cleaned out my studio, and my son says, Mom, the garbage man is taking all your paintings. I said, oh my God. So there I was running down the street in my house coat and shoes after the garbage truck at 7:30 in the morning. I caught up with him, and the garbage man was so thrilled. He says, oh, you're the artist? And I said, yes. And he says, oh my gosh, I'm so pleased to meet you. And I couldn't believe it, you know. So I said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll let you have the paintings that aren't signed. The ones that are signed, I'd like to retrieve. And he was so thrilled, you know. He had this great big smile on his face. He was just so thrilled to meet the artist. He didn't care if they were in the garbage bag or what. It was just amazing. So it's really been quite amazing for me, like especially the nomination to the BC Festival of the Arts, which I never had intended, but my instructors really encouraged me and gave me a sense of direction. And I would say from then, even to this day, I'm still getting that encouragement, and doors are opening. And so I really have to sit back and ground myself, and and I still get the calls. I'm getting the calls for some more teaching, and so it's really wonderful. I feel really blessed to have and grateful to have had this opportunity that has manufactured into much more than for a don't want to be artist.
Yeah.
It really is more than I ever expected, and I dream big because these are places that I would like to go, and even just looking at the internet on some of these galleries and the work out there and the artists, it's such a big world of creativity and cultures, and I think that's one of the reasons that I would also like to travel. The art that is created by different cultures is really such a magnet for me to do that. It's a real magnet, and maybe that's what I am for my students. I don't know, but there is definitely a magnet there, and we all, I believe, have a need to be creative, and and to do something good. And for me, this has been my way of being able to use my creativity in ways that I didn't realize that I had, and I really like others to be able to work from within and find that hidden talent that everybody possesses, but we just haven't tapped into ourselves.
Yeah, it's true. We all do have
we have it, but tapping into it.
Yeah, that's we need a guide and a teacher like you to help us tap into that
sort of
thing. Yeah,
to help. Well, I have those who have taught me to believe in myself.
Yeah. So you told us a little bit about wanting to travel to the different galleries and everything with your art and everything, but there was one gallery or something. It's in Italy that you did. It was like the really big dream for you to get accepted.
Yes, and I haven't totally committed myself to that yet, but they have really researched me and researched my website, and they have come back with what they would like, and so I'm still over the moon on this, and I guess when I do decide, everybody's going to know about it.
Yeah. So what does that feel like to have these people pursue you over your art?
Oh my, I get so excited, and sometimes I just have to take time out and I have to go and do some meditation and some yoga and settle myself, because it really is a blessing, and that they are pursuing me, and like I say, I have to process the information.
Yeah.
And so like Tokyo and France or Spain, and I put here, I believe there is that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow waiting for me and keeps me dreaming.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess we all have that, and so, but I'm still over the moon over some of these opportunities that are opening up, and I have to take a little bit of time to process all the opportunities.
Yeah. So is there any, because there's always someone listening that might need a piece of advice, is there any concrete thing that you've done that may have started the doors opening?
Yes, I would suggest if there's no, and I tell all my students there's no magic wand, but my own intuitive sense was I sat down and I went over all my work, and I must have put in about 200 hours in redoing my website. And I really went through all my work, and I would suggest that anybody who wants to have their work acknowledged, there's a lot of work involved in it. I've also told my students that I wouldn't always be their teacher, but now it's a much bigger world in the arts. Like there's the graphic arts, there's computer work, there's web design, there's so many opportunities out there. And for me to give them direction, I don't think I could, because they would find a direction in going to all the different opportunities that are available through the internet and the websites and all of that. It's just so big, and I would like to say if that's where you want to go, follow your dream, but there's work involved.
Yeah.
And there are times that I've had to sacrifice a lot to be able to do my painting and close myself in my studio and give up a lot of different social activities and everything else to be able to take that time and focus on my artwork. And truly amazed sometimes myself at what would transpire in the transposition of my own imagination and work on the palette and the canvas, you know. So, but there is no magic wand, and I would encourage anybody, you know, to follow their dream and their sense of direction and what they would really like to do. If it's playing basketball, then you practice playing basketball.
Right.
You know, you have to sacrifice many things, you know, to be able to pursue that big dream. Otherwise, it can just be small, and for it to get bigger, you know, that's what it will. It depends on the work that you put into it.
Right.
And actually, I think it was Picasso that said, "What is talent if not hard work?"
It's true.
You know, like I could have all this talent, but if I didn't do anything with it, I wouldn't. Nothing would be happening too. So, and I've got a lot more work to do. That's what's almost scary for me, is that there's so much more. As the doors open, there's so much more work to be done.
Right.
You know, and even doing this podcast was almost like I said no, because I almost said no, and I decided to think about it, and I thought, oh well, why not? You know.
Well, but it's something new, right?
Right. So it was a challenge for me, because I did work at a radio station at one time, and I said, please don't ever ask me to do any of the announcing. But I looked back on that, and I thought, now I wish I would have. So, but also those who know me well, I was called a perennial optimist. And there's always the opportunities there, but we have to work at it. And I have not always been accepted into all the art shows. I've been to hundreds of juried art shows, but at the same time, you keep trying. You keep, you know, you keep putting yourself out there, and the next juried art show, you know, you keep doing it and finding the one that is going to work with your art or whatever, you know, avenue you choose to take, even if it's a web design or whatever. So and I know when it comes to some of those graphic arts, and that they would have to find the right person to direct them.
Because there's one thing that you pointed out in our success stories is the work that we put into it, and the humility in not feeling too egotistical about.
Yes, well, one does have to kind of remain humble, and I have, because often when I talk to somebody on this, just an acquaintance, and they'll talk about art, they don't know anything about me, but I'll hear all about their art, and I have, or whatever they're doing, and some of my students have really won a lot of awards. Like one little fellow was with me, he started when he was 8 years old, and he had the most nimble little fingers, and doing the value scale, and I could see his fingers were sore, and I said, well, you don't have to do it. He says, but I want to. And he was with me for 8 years, and 8 years later, he got a scholarship into the Emily Carr School of Design here in BC.
That's quite the big deal, isn't it?
It is, and also I watched what he was drawing and painting, and I said to his mom, he's doing a lot of birds, and I suggest that Robert Bateman's coming into town, into the Willowbrook Art Gallery. I suggest that he go and visit him and meet him. And so this little guy, it was pouring rain, he was there half an hour before the gallery opened, first one in line. He wanted to meet Robert Bateman. Now this is a desire. And so when somebody has that desire, there's nothing that's going to stop them. Their passion.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say for myself, it's also been a lot of patience and giving a lot of the time and effort for the students, but the rewards have been there because another student made it into the Rhode Island School of Design in Rhode Island, and the mother was in tears. She says because nobody had the patience to work with him. So there's not only my patience, but the student has to have patience with themselves and being able to do the drawing or whatever is necessary.
Yeah.
And that passion. With it comes passion, desire, and patience, and all those challenges that we have in life.
Yeah.
When you ask about challenges, yeah.
Yeah, we all run into them, and it's is it not true that the successful person is the one who finds a way around the challenge and not just says, oh, it's too big and gives up?
Well, if I may correct you, I would say not around the challenge, but go through with it. One has to go through with it. There's no way around it.
That's a good correction. I like that.
There's been no way around it for me, or shortcuts or anything else. I had to go through it. And because then going through it, one develops the strength, the courage, the confidence, and so much that goes with it. So like Picasso said, talent is hard work.
Yeah.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
And even at this point, I really have to sit back and just how much more do I want painting? I love the clothing site, and I love the fusion of the art and fashion and design and all of that. So I really do love doing that, and with the galleries and everybody else that is responding to that, I'm really grateful for it.
Yeah. So, we talk so much about the beauty that we have around us and everything. And you talked about some of the things that you want your students to get out of working with you and just out of their artwork itself. It's like, so it brings me to one question I ask everybody, some version of this question is like, if you could have the perfect world, what would it look like to you?
Oh, I've thought about that because I've thought about that, and in my mind and my belief, like in the fusion of art and life, a perfect world would be where people are living a life of joy without so many struggles and challenges and drugs and wars. And we live in a complex world right now too, and the underprivileged. And so there could be less of a need to protect that fusion of art and life, and laughing and smiling and dancing. And I've always believed that these energies could be channeled into more productive, creative ways. And I'm sensitive to all the struggles. Yeah. I myself, of course, have overcome a few, but that I look at where I'm at, and we must individually or universally find ways to overcome our struggles in a universal way. And one is never alone in any experience, and to be able to work together, I think, is really what we are faced with in our society. if it's through art or through sports or any dance or the performing arts or just we are going through a lot of politics. And for me, I've thought about this too. For me, art is not racist. When you put that paintbrush in somebody's hands, it's not racist. It's not. It's just an individual creative ability. And so, what is the other word that they use here with not with people being turned against you or anything else? It's so those are some of the aspects that I really believe that art can give an outlet to many to have a greater joy in life.
Yeah.
But again, it takes work and sacrifice, and I have great joys, but I also have to work at, in being able to overcome some of the struggles or health issues or any of that. So, and I believe in that, it takes a lot of encouragement and help from people around us to be able to overcome a lot of our struggles. And I'm very thankful I've had that.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
I wish that for others,
Yeah. So again, what are the best ways to find your art and maybe work with you?
To find art and work with me?
Yeah, to find your art and maybe work with you.
Oh, through my website, number one.
Mm-hmm.
My website says a lot about me and avenues that one can contact me for my art or for any other work. I've done a course in creative coaching. I've done creative coaching as well, which can take the people in a direction. They don't necessarily have to have a paintbrush in their head, because some people are just really intimidated by that paintbrush and a canvas. But the creative coaching can take them through blocks where they can go in maybe other directions, in a creative sense. So they can definitely find me on my website, and easy to find. I'm very easy to find and very easy to communicate with, and what I can offer. I'm happy to offer whatever I can for others to be privileged in the way that I have been blessed. So.
Okay. Can you say the name of your website, please?
Oh, it's Jolene's Art at Jolene'sArt.com. Jolene comes from the last part of my name, Angeline, and my all my work is signed Jolene. So when you're looking at it, Jolene, there's only one Jolene, and so it's a registered company name, and the company is Jolene's Art and Associates, but and so it's Jolene's Art, Jolene'sArt.com, and if they look on the website, the email address is the email address that is used for any art inquiries.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you. It's been a lot of fun, and I really enjoy. I've learned a lot hearing about myself, and interested to hear what the feedback will be, what others might like to hear or talk about art. I'm open to conversation with anybody or meeting with anybody if they would like to talk art.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
That shooting star, and then I wondered where you are. Is it dead to me, or is it meant to be? Something we cannot hide. Oh, it's help us to go.
This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.